I'm Mark Kessel. I'm the chairman of FINE, which is based in Geneva, Switzerland. In terms of India and especially in the diagnostic area, I think we're seeing a couple of things that are needed. First of all, I think the Indian government is going to produce a lot of incentives for diagnostics through different incentive programs that they're creating. And one of the things we would like to do is to have FINE be able to interact with those nascent companies that are going to be incentivized by the Indian government to more effectively develop diagnostics for world health. One of the issues you have, it's not just in India, but just around the world, is that smaller companies which are creating a lot of the innovation don't have the expertise to deal in the World Health Center. They don't have the regulatory expertise. They don't have the expertise to do the clinical trials. So one of the things we would like to do in working with the Indian companies is to provide that expertise to promote the programs that are really relevant and necessary for India. So to take an example for hepatitis C, at the present time you have a platform that is used for tuberculosis. And one of the things I think looking out into the future you want to do is to not have to have a separate diagnostic test for each kind of a disease, but to more effectively use the same platform for multiple diseases. So someone can come in and be tested for hepatitis C, for HIV, and other infectious diseases. So I think that should be one of the ways of the future. The other thing is the issue of connectivity. So I think one of the things that would be beneficial is, given the technology that you have in India, is to try to merge the connectivity aspects with the diagnostics. So for example, if you have someone that's going in and being tested for, let's say, tuberculosis, then you can provide to the clinician through connectivity the immediate results through a rapid test, but also to the Ministry of Health to provide them with the epidemiological studies that can discern where there is an epidemic, where it's transforming from tuberculosis to MDR or even XDR type of tuberculosis. In terms of the private sector, one of the things that you see in countries like the United States is the private sector does play a very important role in R&D. So you have discoveries coming out of universities, but then the private sector takes those and moves them forward. In the case of drugs through phase 1, phase 2, and so on. So I think you need to have the private sector be incentivized to get reasonable returns on the diagnostic development, but at the same time we need to somehow incentivize the private sector to go into the neglected diseases, of which there are about 28, because right now they're not incentivized to do that. So how do we do that? One, I think you need to merge both governments, private foundations to provide some of the funding, but at the same time connect them with the private sector through either pull or push systems in order to incentivize them to get into the World Health sector. Because I think one of the issues you have is investors need to get a reasonable return on their investment. Unless you can somehow do that, then we're not going to be able to attract sufficient funding for them. So in India, I don't know enough about the market here, but I think that with the government incentive programs, where they can provide some of the defraying the costs of development, you can then better get the private sector to come in and pick up some of the further development costs associated with, for example, diagnostics. One of the things that I've been doing since I became chairman of FINE is actually to promote the need for diagnostics in world health. And I do consider it as a stepchild. If you look at the total amount of funding that has been devoted to diagnostics, it's under 5% in terms of overall healthcare costs. So yes, I think it's underfunded, but I think it's also underappreciated in terms of the economic impact that diagnostics has to the cost of the healthcare systems in a country. Because take hepatitis C, which we've been talking about at our forum today. If you can diagnose someone with hepatitis C early on, the cost to the healthcare system is reduced very, very dramatically. So for example, right now in the United States, the cost of treating hepatitis C is around $90,000 to $120,000. The cost in India is going to be, it's roughly, let's say, 500, it's going to drop to 300, it's going to continue to drop like you saw in HIV. So being able to diagnose those people early on and treating them with a drug that is available that's 98% effective at eliminating hepatitis C is going to have an enormous impact. So I think one of the reasons for our forum today was to really promote the understanding of the value of diagnostics to world health. Now, a lot of the individuals that were at the forum appreciate the value of diagnostics, but there are a lot of stakeholders in the world that do not really fully appreciate not only giving patients the correct care, but also how you can reduce the economic burden on healthcare systems. Right, so as I was saying before, I think that, so let's take a simple example I think people can understand. So Ebola. So what did we see? We had no diagnostic for Ebola, so the people came into rudimentary clinics. It took a long time for the results of their tests to get back to them. In the meantime, they were infecting, hundreds of people that were lying there who didn't even have Ebola. So if you can have first a rapid diagnostic test that's affordable and that is accurate enough, one of the problems you had in the past, a lot of the diagnostics in the developing world were not accurate. You were getting a lot of misdiagnosis. So if you can have a rapid diagnostic test that is connected to health systems, ministries of health, then you can quickly discern whether you have an epidemic or you have an isolated incidence. And if you had that in Ebola, then you could have dealt with it, much more effectively, would not have spent so much money, on Ebola to try to eradicate it. We could have caught it a lot earlier. Same thing with Zika. There is no rapid diagnostic test, so it's been allowed to sort of, flourish in a lot of countries. So the connectivity is really important, and as I look out into the future, I think that we need to merge the diagnostics with the connectivity aspect of it, because then you can really benefit the healthcare systems and be able to contain epidemics much more readily.